Alright, this is a tutorial on how to get started using Tabletop Simulator to play Exceed in particular. Hopefully you have already acquired Tabletop Simulator. You can get it through Steam, and I can't help you with that. You're kind of on your own. But if you search for it on Steam, you can buy it. It usually goes on sale a few times a year for a pretty reasonable cost. Alright, once you own Tabletop Simulator and have it installed, go to it in your library and look for something that looks kind of like this. There's a Browse the Workshop button under the Steam Workshop section. Once you have that selected, it will take you to a page that looks like this, where you can type in a little search bar to find whatever you're looking for. In this case, you will type in something completely unintuitive, which is Balanced Breakfast, or XFS Balanced Breakfast. Having done so, you'll be taken to the search results page. Near the top of those results, hopefully, is going to be the module entitled XFS Balanced Breakfast by Feather Rose. Click that sucker and you will open up this thing. This is a preview of the module's contents, and it has a subscribe button. Clicking that is all you need to do for this step. Okay, the next thing to do is actually fire up Tabletop Simulator itself. Alright, once you've fired up Tabletop Simulator, you'll see something that looks like this, and you'll also hear some annoying background music. So as a quick survival tip, you can open Configuration and then Sound, and then turn that music down all the way to 0 so that you never have to put up with it again. That's unrelated though. So, once you're here, click Create, and then you can mess around in single player if you really want to, but if you actually want to play against people, you'll need to open a multiplayer game, and then put in the server name whatever you want, and for the password as well whatever you want. This is the password I use for all my public-facing games. It's not really a secret, so if you see my server up, you can always try that and see if you can just jump in. The number of players is also up to you, of course, depending on how many people you think your system can handle. I will go ahead and create this server all the way down for 2 people right this second, because I don't want anybody who's watching this to jump in as I'm doing it. Neat. Here you're going to have this games window come up. I've got a bunch of random nonsense on it that we're not too concerned about right here, except for this thing. Hey, look at that. XFS Balanced Breakfast. Click that and say, are you sure you want to load? Why, yes, you are sure. You're following this video after all, so you should be sure. It will take a minute to load. This is because the module is pretty large. It has all of the Exceed content I could cram into it, and that will probably only grow. So I'm sorry, but it's going to cause a little bit of lag. That is the cost of having access to everything. Alright, once the module loads, you'll see something like this, a bunch of gibberish on the side, and to start with, if you're not participating in a tournament or otherwise organized play events where you're being told what to do about timers, find this button over here, which says Timer Mode. Switch it to No Items, and then push one of these buttons, and that'll clear up all this extra gibberish, and take you to your basic version of the game, where you have your board, your life counters, and not much else to worry about. Alright. Congratulations, you've now loaded an Exceed module. From here, if you are playing against somebody, they will probably be able to guide you through it, but since you're watching this video, let's go ahead and finish the job. To your right, we have a bunch of bags. These correspond, in the first place, to different seasons. So you have all of your Red Horizon over here, all of your 7th Cross over here, all of your Street Fighter over here, and by the way, these are infinite bags, meaning if you pull something out of the bag, it will actually just get you a bag. But every bag contains a complete set of the season. If you find yourself having too many things on the board, drop them in one of these trash bags. That is why we have infinite copies, that you can delete things without having to worry too much about it. Once you've chosen your character, quickly click and drag to pull the top card off of the deck, and then you can press F on your keyboard to flip an object face down, and then R to randomize, which in the case of a deck means shuffle. Hopefully your opponent will be showing up around this time, which, by the way, we're not actually ready yet. You'll need to pick a color. This board is situated to handle up to 6 players, but you'll probably want to use the center board. So, click your name, click Change Color, and choose one of the bubbles. Alright, so now I'm your opponent, because obviously you were sitting over there. Let's pick somebody out. By the way, if you're hovering over a bag, you can press R to randomize, just like with the deck. Random choice has given me Vega. Alas, poor me. Alright, well I don't need the rest of that right now. Your opponent may want to have a reference set of all of your cards. You can right-click one of these and click States and then select a character. They are alphabetical for the most part. And that will get you the reference card that you have in the actual real-life game. By the way, pressing Alt zooms in on an object. So, if you're having trouble seeing what's on a card, hold Alt, and you can use the scroll wheel to adjust that if it's a little big or a little bit small. Anyway, speaking of reference cards, some players prefer to have more thorough references, where they have a complete view of every card in your kit, in which case you'll want to pick up your deck and drop it on top of this thing, which is handily labeled Reference Generator. That will provide you with 2 complete reference sets and give you back your original deck. Pick up your deck and put it back. And as for these, you'll notice they are 7 cards each. If you hover and press 7 on your keyboard, you will draw 7 cards, which is all of them. And that is a complete reference set for your character. In general, if you hover a deck and press a number, you will draw that number. There is a slight delay involved, so you'll find that you may press 2, and then 2 again, and draw 22 cards. In order to avoid that, move your cursor off of the deck as soon as you press the number. It will then trigger the draw immediately. Alright. Unless I've forgotten something. Oh, I suppose I should create a reference for Carl. Flip. Draw. Ah, right. I nearly forgot. By default, when you're looking at Tabletop Simulator, you will have a second set of cards in your hand like this. Some players like this because they can move their camera around wherever they wish, and it will remain visible. I find it obnoxious, so personally I press H on the keyboard to toggle it off. I should probably have mentioned a few other basics of Tabletop Simulator. Press W, A, S, and D to move your camera. Press spacebar to reset your camera. And you can press Q or E to rotate an object. By default, your rotation degrees will be set to 15, meaning rotation will take a while. But you can click this little button up here until you get to 90, and get your nice 90-degree turns. Oh, that's all that comes to mind. So, we've got a coin here in the middle. As with other objects, you can press R to randomize, and I'll call tails. Which is lucky, because my opponent isn't actually at the table, so if they had won, I don't know what would have happened. I will choose to go first, meaning I will hover my deck, press 5, move my cursor off, and here we go with my 5-card hands. I can press Alt to zoom in. And I'm good with this hand. No, that's foolish. I will mulligan this entire hand, it's terrible. So, I'm going to first flip cards face down, before I drag them out of my hands. To be clear, while a card is in your opponent's hand, even if it's face up, you can't see it. So these are face-up cards, but they're invisible to me, meaning if you want to keep a card hidden from your opponent, you need to flip it face down before you take it out of your hands. The hand zone is a roughly invisible shape, which takes up about that much area. You can see it if I press this button. So that's where the hand zones actually are. And that is the area in which cards are invisible to your opponent while you pick them up or move them around. While you're moving cards, you can actually see the hand zone in the form of an outline. It might be a little hard to see, but do you see the red outline there? Once cards leave that outline, they'll shift slightly and they'll become visible to your opponent. So, if you're setting cards, you should set them face down first. Remember, it is F to flip. Alright, well my opponent mulliganed 5. But I am Carl, and I fear nothing, so I'll mulligan 0. I also have this in my hand, which is pretty darn good. Customarily, you will now say good luck and have fun, and somebody will take the first turn. Vega being Vega, he will, I don't know, retreat 2 spaces or something. Oh, I should probably flip these face up. And then draw for end of turn. When drawing a card from your deck, you have the choice of moving a card quickly or pressing 1 and dragging off quickly. Remember to randomize after, whenever you need to, especially after mulligan. Okay, let me see, are there any Tabletop Simulator fundamentals that I've skipped over completely? Nothing comes to mind. As a few more useful notes, however. Suppose that I initiate a strike, and I've set my attack, and my opponent is considering things, and I go, hold on a moment, I may want to reconsider this, but I don't remember what I said. Well, I can press Alt to zoom in, but that's only going to show me the back of the card. You can look at the bottom part of a card on the table by pressing Alt and holding Shift. This will pop up an eye on the card, so your opponent knows that you're looking at the underside of a card so that they know if you're trying to cheat. If they set their attack, and I look on their card, well, you know, that's legal. Don't do that. You may occasionally find that when you're dragging cards out of your hands, they do this. This is because Tabletop Simulator is finicky, and likes to be handled gently. Pardon me. When you have a stack of cards like this, often it's going to be easiest to just draw the whole set, so that number is 6, I'll draw 6, and move them out of my hand a bit more slowly. This can happen, for example, if my opponent is able to see my hands due to the effect of parry or some other card. If I want to take these cards and group them into a stack, I select them all by dragging, and hit G on the keyboard to group. And then I have a nice tidy deck, which I can draw all at once. Likewise, if I would discard a card at random from my opponent's hands, you know, boost, spend a force, opponent discards a card at random. You can click and drag to select all cards in your opponent's hand, and then press R to randomize. You should then click somewhere else, by the way, to deselect. If you still have them selected and you try to drag a card, you'll get all of them, which is not what you want. So, click and drag, randomize, click to deselect, pull a card. Oh, good pull. Alright, I personally am favoring Carl this game. As you take damage, you will reduce your life. Or, you can click in this area and modify it like any text value. If you should happen to accidentally reset it, then it's going to be faster to reset by typing it in instead of just incrementing 30 times. Alright, a few other tidbits about this module in particular, which are not Tabletop Simulator things, per se. This is a reference of all of the normal attacks. These cards are common to all characters. If you don't have them memorized yet, you can use this to refer to remind yourself what they are. It shows the attack and the boost, as well as the cost of the boost, which is always 0 for normals, and whether it is continuous or not. These are playmats. They're just for fun. Oh, and these are the reference cards, which tell you the actions available to you. Alright, unless I'm forgetting something, I think that about covers it for how to use Tabletop Simulator in the context of Exceed. One last thing. Once you finish the game, and made a terrible mess, with, 15 cards spread out across the table in various places, half your hand revealed, half of it not, a bunch of stuff in your discard pile, and countless messes made. You may think to yourself, well, it seems like it'll be a pain to tidy this all up. You're in luck! Since it's a Tabletop Simulator, you can just go to the Games menu, click that same module you clicked in order to load this in the first place, and it will reset everything. Of course, since it resets everything, you will also want to click this button again and then get rid of all that extra stuff. Alright, that about covers it. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'm certainly not averse to modifying or re-releasing if it turns out this one is inadequate. But I hope it helps you. Good luck, have fun, and happy gaming.